right, so we're about to find out when the rights of people claim individual rights versus public health officials. We're talking about the president. When they start clashing, what happens? Good morning. This is Your Vote Counts. By the way, Representative Munson, we saw the governor do a video this week saying we're going to challenge these mandates. It is game on. Courts, here they come.
Yeah, the governor continues to show this perception that he's sparring with the president, when in reality, he needs to be helping Oklahomans. Since the beginning of this year, he has been absolutely silent on COVID-19. What he needs to be doing is talking about how safe and effective the vaccine is, and encourage Oklahomans to get the vaccine so that we can move on from this pandemic and get back to life, whether that's working, going back to school, and being with our families and friends.
It's interesting to me that the Biden mandates, they really haven't taken effect yet, okay? I was looking at numbers, our friends in the media talking about the numbers. United Airlines, for example, 67,000 people, except for 232, have been vaccinated. So it's largely successful. But John, you're watching this. This is a head-on collision between the governor and President Biden.
Oh, it is. And I just want to say thank you to Governor Stitt for standing up against yet another Biden overreach. Vaccines are science, but mandates are political. What we've seen here is President Biden announce a proposal with no guidelines, no rules to change the narrative away from Afghanistan. We still haven't seen any guidelines, which are definitely going to be challenged in court. Governor Stitt and Secretary of Health Fry are still out there encouraging people to get vaccinated, but there is a big difference between encouraging vaccinations and blackmailing people with the ability to feed their families.
Oh, it's going to be interesting, and there's going to be misinformation falling out of the ceiling. We'll see how this one goes. All right, let's segue into, a lot of this is politics. We all know this, right? So we're redistricting in Oklahoma. November 15th, y'all are going into a special session over this. The most common thing that I'm hearing from folks is, what do those maps look like? Because there's going to be a race, CD5, that's going to be close. What are we hearing about this, and can the people have some transparency in this process?
They absolutely can have transparency. This has been one of the most transparent and open redistrictings we've had in state history. We've had town hall meetings across the state. We've heard from constituents. We've heard from people about how they want these maps drawn. We have a meeting next week to look at the public submitted maps for congressional districts. We've had a little problem getting the census data back. We voted on preliminary maps for the Oklahoma State House and Senate districts. We will be going back in and voting on the updated maps with the updated census numbers and the congressional maps November 15th. Next week, I believe it's next Wednesday, we'll be looking at public maps.
A lot of people are wondering what those maps are going to look like.
That's right. That's right. There's a lot of talk on this process being very open, and while there are opportunities for the public to come and share their opinions on how these maps should look, there's still a lot of power in the hands of us who are elected. Specifically here in Oklahoma City, CD5 is very important to both Republicans and Democrats. And I know Republicans are doing everything they can to secure CD5 for Republicans, but the truth is that the political and economic demographics here in Oklahoma City are shifting. They are changing and becoming more diverse, and I think that's important for us to recognize as these lines are being drawn and we vote on those maps come November 15th.
All right, coming up in our next half hour, we're going to be talking about these interim studies on education. And welcome back. You know that you hear this story a lot. They go, well, those legislators did this work 4 or 5 months out of the year. There's never been a bigger Wendy ever told about that. You guys are working 12 months out of the year. I know that. I saw my dad do that for 20 years. There is a lot, however, in these interims dealing with education, and I think people are really interested in this topic. What's happening out there this fall on education?
Sure. The House and Senate Ed committees just finished up a whole week full of interim studies. They've looked at everything from the teacher pipeline to learning loss due to the pandemic. They've talked to Superintendent of Education Hoffmeister about these issues. It's interesting, as we continue to work through these issues, we've got some of the best trained and most dedicated teachers in the country. We've got historic education budgets, and yet we're still seeing lags in things like test scores. As we continue to work through these issues with our educators, it's going to be interesting to see what legislation comes out of that this year.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion that maybe education is going to be a big issue in the next gubernatorial race.
Yes.
All right. Agree?
That's possible, yeah. You know, what I will say about education, and my colleague mentioned it, is that we have a huge need when it comes to the teacher shortage and filling that workforce challenge that we have here in Oklahoma. And so, you know, things like education and healthcare are some of the most critical services that we need to provide for Oklahomans to live healthy and high quality life. And so we have to address the teacher shortage. We have to ensure that our teachers are qualified and trained and ready to be in the classroom, especially with everything that we have faced with the COVID-19 pandemic.
There's some exciting news also about some of this money, this recovery money. ARPA, you've heard this term being used. If you're in Garvin County, we call that money from Uncle Sugar. But the fact is that the public now can have some input and make suggestions about where this recovery money goes.
That's correct. There are federal dollars that are coming to the state of Oklahoma, but also our municipalities and our county. I serve on the joint committee on pandemic relief funding at the state capitol. And so we will be distributing $1.9 billion across the state of Oklahoma. And so that portal is open. Those applications are available for all and any Oklahomans to submit ideas on things that we can do to grow our economy and to help Oklahomans who have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. I'm looking forward to the process. It's been a lot of work and it's kept us busy these last few months.
Okay, we're probably going to need some instruction on how to do that in the very near future. People are going to need to sharpen those pencils, get those records out, and make those proposals, right?
That's right, for sure. And they can. It's very easy. Just go to oklahoma.gov/ARPA, or like all of us do, just Google Oklahoma ARPA, and it takes you right to the website. Like Cyndi said, we've got $1.9 billion to distribute. Those proposals, you can make them. Anybody can make them. Just go to the website, and they'll talk you through how to do that. They will then go to the Joint Legislative Committee made up of both House and Senate members who will review and score those proposals and send them on to the governor's office for his approval or denial. I think it's interesting that we now have opportunities to hear directly from Oklahomans on what's going to best impact their life with this money.
All right, so that's going to be good, and the public gets their input into that, and that's solid. I look forward to that. See this again at news9.com/YourVoteCounts, and follow me on Twitter @MitchellTalks.